when you're wandering around here, I said a lot of people are coming to you and celebrating you. You're kind of a living legend for them, which is not only a big compliment, which is also a huge responsibility because you're kind of a role model. Do you like that image of you, or do you say, no, legends are connected to the past and I'm the guy who wants to shape the future?
No, I always take the best that comes out of the things, and for sure it's fantastic to be recognized by people, to be cheered, to be supported the way I am. So it's only a plus from my point of view. Then to represent maybe not a source of inspiration, but rather a good, let's say, reference point. Let's put it this way. It's also down to them seeing in me something which is special in their eyes. It's not in me doing something necessarily that special. So for sure this is something which touches my heart. I know that I have been, for some reason, for different reason, a very good reference point for a lot of people. But again, I have to live my life. I have to, continue my journey. And if somebody along the way say, Alex, wow, you're great, I can only raise my hat and say thank you, and carry on doing what I do. Nevertheless, as I said, I think to be inspiring life, it's very important, but once more, it's not up to the talent of what or who we are watching, but it's rather to the talent of our eyes to recognize, to seek that inspiration, which makes that little magic happen. So again, to be seen from a lot of people in different ways, somehow kind of special, for me it's cool, but I really enjoy when beautiful ladies like you who tells me this. It's not up to me to think or pretend I am a role model for anybody.
When you're sitting here talking, wandering around, it seems like everything is pretty easy for you. Is it really that way, or is it sometimes really, difficult in the physically way or in terms of organization?
Well, I guess, sweetheart, you don't have to be in a hurry because this normally comes with age and this philosophy. When I was in my mid-20s, I think I was incredibly well equipped from a physical point of view, but I was very weak mentally, whether now, I know that I'm good enough. I am not the best in anything, but I am good enough to make an attempt. And this is what keeps us alive, making attempt for things that are important. Because if everybody's running into a particular direction, well, for sure there's something interesting down the road there. But we should really ask ourselves, what are they chasing? Is something that is also interesting for me? Because maybe you want to go somewhere else. So it's stupid to run down there just because you're following the flow, You should really ask yourself, where do I want to go? I'm a very lucky person because I have a lot of options, but I make choices. I decide what I want to do, and this again is the greatest privilege I live. So why shouldn't I be happy? Why shouldn't I, take my opportunities and try to get the best out of it? It's as simple as this.
It's a good point, making decisions, making choices. A lot of companies do have to make these choices these days. Keyword is digital transformation. I can say you're the man of transformation. It's a very tough thing for us people to change ourselves because we have to surrender a part of us. What's your advice for the people and of course for the companies, for the people who work in companies? How is it possible to change more easily? What do we have to give up, for example?
Well, first of all, we have to acknowledge that it's just a question of will. Whatever we desire to do is what matters the most. And whenever we desire to be available for others who are not in the position to do things on their own, well, that's a very noble attitude, and it's nice. Then, of course, we are very imperfect human beings, and sometimes we make mistakes, and we are trying to help others, and we do exactly the opposite. But this doesn't stop us to retry, to adjust, our attempt, and to make a new one. For instance, since I am become, let's say, Alex Zanardi the way I am today, or for whatever it means, these days for me it's much easier with a small gesture, not to move mountains, but to do much more than a lot of other people do. And disability is a theme that I never thought I would encounter through the course of my life, but I did. And also the opportunity is there for me to do something for disabled people, you know, to improve their life for whatever I can. You know, I'm not gonna fill or empty the ocean. It's just a drop on it, but it's a drop more that I can add, and I can give my contribution, you know, to move things forward. I did that with a new sportive project that we are running in Italy, you know, on behalf of whoever as a disabled person wants to start sports. I did that with amputees, with kids with an amputation, with a project called Bimbingamba, and we serve kids from all around the world. And I'm very, very happy to be available to Schaeffler, because I know that they have a similar interest. The technology these days allows great companies like Schaeffler to do things that in the past were simply impossible. So why not taking advantage? Then we also have to tell to people that if the problem is, no, I don't want to do that because I want to walk in the way I was doing it before, well, then the problem is not technical, it's more psychological. And we just have to invite these people to turn around their head, to search for inspiration, not to necessarily watch Alex Zanardi, but to see that there are a lot of people that in spite of their problems, personal problems, they search for alternative solutions, and they went on with their life, you know, living a great life and doing marvelous things. So they can do the same. And then whenever they find themselves with this new mindset, then technology can certainly grant you solutions that in the past were not possible.
To invent such technologies you're talking about, you really need some good and talented and passionate people to work with you in a company. And a lot of HR departments are telling us, yeah, it's very difficult to get young people excited about something, to attract those new talents. And when I look at you, you really inspire a lot of young people. So what is your advice for companies to just inspire and to just get young people excited?
It's tough. I'm not a professor of any matter. I'm simply a man who had the privilege of living many different adventures through the course of his life, one of which was my rehabilitation, I have to be honest with you. And this is what I tell to kids, for instance, whenever I go to talk to them in schools, because I often talk about being curious, to embrace your passions. And when I look at them, often I get this strange reaction where they probably think, what are you talking about? You drive beautiful race cars, you go to the Olympics, we're here, you know, studying mathematics, literature, or you name it. And I simply tell them that I believe that when you can turn your passions into a profession, of course it's much easier, but it's also possible to turn your profession, your duty, what you have to do, into something passional, into something that can become really not just your main objective, but also your passion. And this is what I did through the course of my rehabilitation. How did I do it? Well, everyone is different. I can tell you my method, which was picking up a prosthetical knee joint and seeking that component, the geniality of the technician who projected, who designed it, and also the similarity with the functioning of the suspension of a race car. And that for me was the starting point, which lit the light, which induced me to have questions for the orthopedic technicians who I had around me, and form a team around myself where I did no longer have a technical director, but I had an orthopedic technician. I didn't have a sportive director, but I had a physiotherapist, you name it. But that year was a very exciting one. And I also developed friendships with people, which survived to the completing of my rehabilitation. So I think in our life, whatever we do, it's possible with this attitude, you know, to embrace an adventure and make it become our passion, whether it's profession, human relationships, sport, you name it. I think with this attitude you can really end up doing what you want in a much better way than you would do it if you were just driven by the ambition.
Giving the people a reason why they do something, right? And some reason could be for in terms of mobility, and the companies like Schaeffler help other people to be mobile, to be part of the social life. Speaking about innovations for people with handicaps, what should be invented to make life easier?
Well, let me talk straight to the engineers at Schaeffler and maybe induce them to look at the people they can help, like the athletes. And in fact, is what we all are. Whenever we're doing something to the best of our ability, I think we are basically doing a very noble sportive gesture. It's as simple as this. In life, I've been inspired from many people. One of them certainly is and was, I have to say, I'm afraid, Stephen Hopkins. A man, was a scientist who, through the course of his life, only moving one eye, was able to do discovery in the astronomic world, for which humankind owes him a great deal of gratitude. And whoever engage himself in trying to do something, overcoming the problems who needs to be solved in order to achieve that result, is in my eyes, is an athlete. So the technicians at Schaeffler who are developing solutions to improve the life of a lot of disabled people and to enable them to do special things are like very important members of a team who are helping them to do something which will improve their life and also will grant new solution to others who may come down the road. So if you start to look at it from this perspective, I think it becomes even more exciting, you know, because again, as I said, with technology today, you can do things that in the past were simply unimaginable. Then it all is also up to the disabled people to stand up and to say, listen, I need this. My need is specifically this one, because otherwise you are lost. You may have the technology, you may have the capability, the human resources, but you don't know how to serve, you know. So I think it needs to, it's a game where from both sides we need to encounter at the beginning, dialogue a little more, develop solutions, and down the road deliver products which will certainly grant huge improvements to people's life.
At the end of our talks, we're always asking our guests, what do you think, how will mobility in the future look like, in your opinion?
Oh, I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. And to a certain degree, some of the developments...
If you ever find it, just borrow it.
You know, I'm an old man, so I may not give you a great answer because to me, the more noise and the more power the car delivers, it's better. But the world is changing, roads are different, there's more cars moving around, so for sure the pollution, it's like number one on the list, is a very important theme. Safety is also something which would be stupid not to care about, because in the same way with technology we can, you know, deliver amazing solutions, we can also take care of improving the safety level while we're moving on the roads. So yes, I would expect that cars in just 10, not to say 20 years, will look quite different in comparison to the way they are now. I mean, maybe down the road we will talk to each other and say, do you remember those days where we used to burn petrol in the car?
Or do you remember when we used to drive?
Exactly. I mean, maybe a kid would say, wow, did you really used to do this?
The steering wheel, yes.
But yeah, time will tell.
time will tell. I say thank you very much for your time. It was a great honor to have you here. Thanks a lot, Alex. And thanks for watching this video. If you don't want to miss any new videos about great people and their stories or the latest innovations, just subscribe this channel. And I'm looking forward to see you next time for a new chapter of Schaeffler DTM Talk. Take care. Bye-bye. See you next time.